Hello, my wonderful family. I hope you're all having a wonderful time. You all feel like family to me, and I always strive to give you the best experience. I've placed only one ad during the story at the 10-minute mark. The rest are after the story ends. This way, you can enjoy it without interruptions. So please watch till the end. Like, comment, and subscribe to support the channel. Your love and support mean everything to me. Alex Carter stepped out of the car and stared at the massive, decaying mansion before him. Blackwood Manor stood tall against the evening sky, its once grand structure now wrapped in a thick layer of ivy and darkness. The house had been abandoned for years, ever since his father's mysterious disappearance. A probation officer, Detective Jessica Hayes, unlocked the heavy iron gate and gestured for Alex to follow. "You know the rules," she said, her voice stern. "House arrest. No leaving the property. No visitors. Your ankle monitor is set to alert us if you try anything stupid." Alex nodded but kept his eyes on the house. Something about it felt wrong. The air was thick, as if the house itself was breathing. "Have fun," Jessica said before driving away, leaving Alex alone with the past he had tried so hard to forget. The first night was unsettling. Alex lay in his childhood bedroom, staring at the cracked ceiling. The furniture was covered in white, sheets, untouched for over a decade. His father had vanished without a trace, leaving behind only questions and an eerie silence. Then, just past 3 a.m., Alex heard it. A whisper. Faint, coming from inside the walls. "Alex!" His body stiffened. His heart pounded in his chest. He sat up and scanned the dark room, but nothing seemed out of place. Another whisper. Closer this time. "You left me here." His breath hitched. The voice was familiar, but that was impossible. The only person who had ever whispered to him in the dark was his younger brother, and he had been dead for years. The next day, Alex explored the house. The hallways stretched endlessly, each door leading to rooms full of dust-covered memories. In the master bedroom, he found a massive antique mirror standing against the wall. A chill ran down his spine as he stepped closer. The reflection was slightly wrong. The lighting seemed off, his own face a little too pale. Then he saw it. Behind him, in the mirror's reflection, stood a tall, shadowy figure. Motionless. Featureless. He spun around. Nothing. He turned back to the mirror. The shadow was now closer. There was one door in the house that was always locked, his father's study. Alex had never been allowed inside as a child, and the very thought of it sent a cold shiver down his spine. But something was different now. The door was slightly open. Taking a deep breath, Alex pushed it wider and stepped inside. Dust particles floated in the stale air, illuminated by a single flickering lamp on an old wooden desk. On the desk lay a leather-bound journal, its pages yellowed with age. He picked it up and read the first entry. "The voices have started. At first, I thought it was just my mind playing tricks. But they are real. And they want something." Alex's fingers tightened around the book. His father had heard them too. Then, the door slammed shut behind him. The hallucinations began the next day. Alex would hear his brother laughing from empty rooms. He'd wake up to find handprints on the walls, as if someone had been crawling over them. The mirrors kept distorting his reflection, making his face look stretched, inhuman. Then one night, he found himself standing outside his old childhood closet, without remembering how he got there. His hand trembled as he reached for the doorknob. Inside there was only darkness, until something crawled out. The more Alex tried to ignore it, the worse it got. The shadows in the corners of his vision moved when he wasn't looking. The voices weren't whispers anymore. They were screaming. And worst of all, the house wouldn't let him leave. One night, in desperation, he tried to run outside. The front door slammed shut on its own. The windows were now bricked up. The mansion had trapped him inside. That's when he heard it again, his father's voice. "Alex, it's not just in your head. You need to run, before it takes you too." But there was nowhere left to run. Alex decided to dig deeper. If his father had left behind clues, he needed to find them. He searched through old documents, tapes, and newspaper clippings, and then he found it, a videotape. Trembling, he placed it in the old TV and pressed play. The footage was grainy, filmed inside this very house. A young boy sat strapped to a chair. His wrists were bruised, his eyes wide with terror, and standing before him was Alex's father. "We must keep him here. He belongs to the house now," his father muttered. Alex's breath caught in his throat. That boy. It was him. Memories rushed back like a tidal wave. The experiments, the rituals, the screams. He was never just a prisoner of his mind. He was never meant to leave this house alive. Cold breath crawled against his neck. Alex turned, and standing right behind him was the shadow from the mirror. It whispered, voice filled with static and rage. "You never left, Alex. You never left." And then, everything went black. When Alex opened his eyes, he wasn't in his house anymore. He was somewhere else. The walls were dark, pulsating like the inside of a living organism. The air smelled of rot, thick and suffocating. A deep, inhuman growl echoed through the space. "Alex!" The voice came from everywhere at once. "You are the heir, the chosen one, the blood sacrifice." Then something crawled toward him. Fast, twisted, starving. Just as it reached him, Alex gasped awake, drenched in sweat. He was back in his house, in the same dusty room. But something was different. The walls had scratches on them, deep claw marks he didn't remember seeing before. The antique mirror in the corner was now cracked, and something inside it seemed to be moving. His phone buzzed on the nightstand. It was Detective Jessica Hayes. "Alex? Listen to me. I ran a background check on your father. Something's wrong with that house. You need to—" The call cut off, and in the reflection of the mirror, Alex saw something standing behind him. The whispers became voices. The voices became commands. Alex found himself drawn to the basement, a place he had never dared to enter before. The air was cold as death, and the wooden steps creaked like bones snapping beneath his feet. At the center of the room stood a ritual, altar. Candles burned in a perfect circle. Symbols were carved into the stone floor, some of them still wet with blood. And in the center, lying on the altar, a book, bound in human skin. The moment Alex touched it, something inside the house screamed. The walls shook violently. The shadows grew hands and reached for him. The whispers turned into laughter. And then a woman's voice, one he had never heard before, whispered in his ear. "They've been waiting for you, Alex." That night, Alex locked every door and window. But it didn't matter. The house was alive. Things moved on their own. Footsteps echoed from empty hallways. The old grandfather clock in the living room struck 3 a.m., but it had been broken for years. Then came the scratching. Something was inside the walls. At first, it was faint, but then it grew violent. Desperate, clawing, digging, trying to break. Free. Alex pressed his ear against the wall, a face pushed against it from the other side, a rotting human face. And then, it screamed. Alex tried to escape, but the front door was gone. Where there should have been an exit, there was now just more hallway. The house had changed its structure. Then, Alex's reflection in the mirror smiled. But he wasn't smiling. He watched, frozen in horror, as his reflection twisted its head at an unnatural angle and whispered, "Let me in." The moment the words were spoken, Alex felt a sharp pain in his chest. His body convulsed. His hands twisted unnaturally. His own voice came out wrong. "You can't run, Alex. You were never meant to run." Possession wasn't instant. It happened in stages. At first, Alex would lose time. Hours gone in the blink of an eye. Then, his body would move on its own. He would wake up in different parts of the house, standing in the darkness, whispering things in a language he didn't understand. The final stage? The demon would take full control. Alex tried to resist, but the thing inside him was stronger. Every night his body would betray him more. One night he woke up holding a knife. His own hand was gripping the handle, and someone was laughing inside his mind. The detective, Jessica Hayes, arrived at Blackwood Manor the next morning. "Alex, open the door!" But Alex was no longer in control. Through his own eyes he watched himself open the door. But it wasn't him moving. It was the thing inside him. "Come inside, detective," his voice purred. But it was not his voice anymore. Jessica hesitated. She sensed something was wrong. The air inside the house was too still, too heavy. "Alex, what's happening to you?" He smiled. A smile that wasn't his. Then, in the mirror behind Jessica, the demon's true form appeared. A towering, skeletal figure with rotting black flesh, sunken eyes, and a mouth stretched too wide. It lunged at Jessica, and then the mirror shattered into 1,000 pieces. The whispers never stopped. Even when Alex pressed his hands over his ears, even when he screamed, the voices slithered into his mind. "Alex Blackwood, your blood is ours." He saw visions now, twisted memories that weren't his. A woman in white, chained to an altar, screaming in agony. A man in a black robe, holding a dagger dripping with blood. A symbol carved into flesh, his own family crest, stained with death. And then the demon's voice, laughing. "Your ancestors made a deal, Alex, and now you will pay the price." Alex woke up somewhere unfamiliar. The walls were covered in ancient symbols. The furniture had been shoved aside, and in the center of the room, a circle of salt. He had drawn it himself. His fingers were stained with black ink, but he had no memory of doing it. A note lay beside him, written in his own handwriting. "Don't trust the mirrors. Don't let it speak. Don't close your eyes." His hands were shaking. He was losing time, losing control, and the thing inside him was getting stronger. Detective Jessica Hayes had spent the past 24 hours researching Alex's family history, and what she found was worse than she could have imagined. The Blackwood family had been cursed for centuries. Every few generations, a firstborn son would vanish without a trace, their names erased from history. In old town records, she found a name, one that hadn't been spoken in over 100 years. Jonathan Blackwood, Alex's great-great-grandfather, and beside his name, scrawled in red ink, "Sacrificed. The heir must be taken." A chill ran down Jessica's spine. She grabbed her gun and her keys. She had to get back to Blackwood Manor. Alex was in danger. Alex tried to leave the house. The front door was gone. The windows showed nothing but darkness. Even his own reflection was wrong. His eyes were too black, too empty. A deep, guttural growl echoed through the halls. "Don't fight, Alex. We have been waiting for you." The shadows moved. Something was coming. Alex collapsed to the floor, clutching his chest. Something burned inside him. His veins turned black, crawling like living things beneath his skin. House was reacting to him. The curse was waking up. And then a door appeared where there wasn't one before. A trapdoor, leading underground. Alex knew he shouldn't go down, but his body wasn't his anymore. His feet moved on their own. The deeper he went, the louder the whispers became, and at the very bottom, a coffin, his own name carved into it. Detective Jessica finally arrived at the manor. She kicked open the locked front door, only to find the house completely silent. No sign of Alex, only mirrors, hundreds of them lining the walls. In the reflection, she saw Alex standing in the basement, but he wasn't alone. Behind him, a towering figure of pure shadow. The demon. It turned its rotting skeletal face toward her and spoke her name. Jessica Hayes. You shouldn't have come. Alex was trapped inside his own body. His hands moved against his will, drawing symbols in blood. He saw flashes of the past, his ancestors, their faces twisted in agony as they begged for mercy. But the demon never forgave, never forgot. You are the final sacrifice, Alex Blackwood. The symbols on the floor lit up. The coffin creaked open, and inside, a rotting corpse, his own face staring back at him. Alex screamed. Jessica reached the basement just in time. Alex was on his knees, the demon's shadow looming over him. The ritual was almost complete. If she didn't break the curse now, Alex would be lost forever. Jessica did the only thing she could think of. She smashed the mirror. The demon howled in agony. The walls shook violently. Alex gasped, feeling control return to his body. But the demon was not defeated yet. It was angry and hungry. The entire house began to collapse. Alex and Jessica ran for their lives, and just as they reached the front door, a blackened hand shot out from the floor, grabbing Alex's ankle. And then, darkness. Alex opened his eyes. He wasn't in Blackwood Manor anymore. The world around him was wrong. The sky was black as ink, shifting like liquid. The ground cracked and twisted beneath his feet, and in the distance, the demon stood waiting. Welcome home, Alex Blackwood. Alex tried to run. The shadows pulled him back. He screamed, but the sound didn't escape. In this place there was no light, no time, no escape. The demon moved closer. Its form was always shifting, never fully human, never fully beast. Its face was 1,000 screaming mouths, whispering all at once. Do you know why you're here? Alex's hands trembled. He couldn't speak. Your family made a deal, Alex, and now you will finish what they started. Meanwhile, Jessica was running out of time. Alex's body lay unconscious, but his veins were turning black. His breath was shallow. She tore through old records, desperate for answers, and then she found it. A forbidden ritual, a way to retrieve a lost soul. The cost? Blood. And not just any blood. The blood of a Blackwood. But Alex was the last one left. Unless... Her hands shook. There was one more name. A woman who vanished decades ago. Eleanor Blackwood. Alex's grandmother. And if Jessica wanted to save him, she had to find her. Alex was losing himself. Every second in this hollow world, his memories faded. He saw visions of other souls trapped here for eternity. Their bodies were rotting, twisted, screaming without sound. The demon stepped closer. There is one way out, Alex. A cold hand touched his shoulder. Make the pact. Alex's breath hitched. "Give me your soul, and I will let Jessica live," the demon knew. It knew he would do anything for her. Alex's fingernails dug into his palms. Was this his fate? To trade himself? To keep her safe? The shadows tightened around his throat. "Choose, Alex Blackwood." Jessica's car sped through the storm. Her mind, racing. Eleanor Blackwood was declared dead in 1982, but death records were forged. Someone had hidden her away, and when Jessica tracked down the last known address, she found something horrifying: a hospital, and inside, a woman, old, frail, eyes hollow with nightmares. And the moment Eleanor saw Jessica, she began to scream. "It's awake! The demon is awake!" Alex was on his knees, the demon's hands wrapped around his skull, whispering poison. "Say yes, Alex, and this suffering ends." The abyss cracked beneath him. Alex felt himself falling, sinking, dissolving into the dark. And then a voice. Not the demon's. "Alex, don't listen." A woman's voice. Familiar. Alex looked up, and in the swirling darkness, his grandmother, Eleanor Blackwood, and she was holding a knife. Jessica watched in horror as Eleanor carved symbols into her own skin. "The Blackwood curse must be broken!" the old woman gasped. Blood dripped onto the floor, forming a spiral of ancient letters, and then Alex gasped awake. But something was wrong. His eyes were black, his veins pulsed with shadows, and when he opened his mouth, the demon's voice spoke through him. "This body is mine." Jessica's blood ran cold. Alex wasn't Alex anymore. The demon had taken him. His lips curled into a grin, not his own. "You should have let him go, Detective." The lights flickered. The walls rippled like liquid, and Jessica realized she was trapped inside the house with it. Blackwood Manor was no longer just a house. The moment Alex's body sat up, his eyes black as the void, the walls began to shift. The air was thick with whispers. Shadows crawled across the ceiling. Jessica stepped back, her heart pounding. This wasn't Alex. "You should not have interfered, Detective," the thing inside Alex said, its voice distorted, layered. The doors slammed shut. The house had sealed itself. There was no way out, and then the game began. The demon smiled through Alex's face. "You want him back?" it asked. It tilted its head. "Then play with me." Jessica's fingers tightened around her gun. "Play what?" The thing inside Alex laughed, slow and mocking. "A game of choices." The walls shifted. The floor crumbled beneath her, feet revealing endless darkness. 3 doors appeared, each one old, rotten, breathing. The demon's voice whispered in her ear. "One door will free Alex, one will trap him forever, and one will take your soul. Choose wisely, Detective." Jessica stepped forward. The first door creaked open. A woman's scream echoed inside. She recognized it. Eleanor Blackwood. She had chosen to sacrifice herself to bring Alex back. But what if she wasn't really dead? Jessica swallowed hard and stepped in. The hallway twisted like flesh. Hands emerged from the walls, clawing at her. A whisper slithered into her ear. A child's voice. "He doesn't want to be saved." Inside his own body, Alex was trapped. The demon's hands wrapped around his throat, squeezing. "You cannot fight me." The air felt thick like tar. Around him, the walls were mirrors, and in each one, he saw himself. Dying, fading, becoming the demon. But then he heard Jessica's voice, calling him. Alex gasped, and for the first time, he fought back. Jessica ran. The hallway collapsed behind her, twisting into screaming faces. The second door appeared before her. Blood leaked from the keyhole. A child's laughter echoed from inside, but she knew. It wasn't a child. She pushed through and came face to face with Alex, not the possessed one, the real one. "Jessica," he whispered, but something held him back. Chains made of shadows. And then the demon appeared behind him. "Wrong door, detective." The floor ripped open, and Jessica fell. She hit the ground, cold, wet, rotten. The demon's laughter echoed around her. "You cannot win." But then a hand grabbed her wrist. Not the demon's, Eleanor Blackwood. The old woman's face was pale, her eyes hollow. "You have one chance," she whispered. Jessica looked at her, breathless. "How?" Eleanor's shaking fingers pointed to the last door. "Burn the house. Destroy it all. Or Alex will never be free." Jessica staggered to her feet. The house was alive, screaming. The walls bled. The windows showed only fire. The demon stood before her, grinning through Alex's body. "Would you really kill him to stop me?" Jessica didn't hesitate. She struck the match. The flames erupted. The house shook violently, the walls peeling apart. Alex screamed. Not the demon, but the real Alex. The shadowy chains snapped. The demon's face twisted in rage, and then the flames consumed it all. Jessica dragged Alex's body through the burning house. The walls collapsed behind them. The demon howled, thrashing in the flames. The shadows tried to pull Alex back, but Jessica held on. And then they burst through the front door. The house caved in. The demon's scream faded into silence, and Blackwood Manor was finally gone. Alex opened his eyes. His breath was shaky, his skin was ice cold, but he was alive. Jessica knelt beside him, exhausted. "It's over," she whispered. But then Alex's hand twitched. His veins turned black, just for a second. His eyes flickered dark, and deep inside him, something laughed. The fire had swallowed Blackwood Manor. The house was gone. The demon was gone. At least, that's what Jessica told herself. But as she sat in the dimly lit hospital room, staring at Alex's pale face, she knew. She could feel it. It wasn't over. Alex woke up 3 days later. His eyes looked the same. His voice sounded the same. But something was off. His movements were too stiff. His breathing was too slow. And sometimes, in the middle of the night, Jessica would wake up and see him standing at the window. Motionless. Staring. One night, she finally asked Alex, "What are you looking at?" His voice came back hollow. "It's calling me back." The signs became worse. Alex spoke in his sleep, not like nightmares, conversations, with something unseen. Shadows moved in his presence. He would wake up with scratches on his skin, and one night Jessica caught him carving symbols into the wall. "Alex, stop!" she screamed, grabbing his hands. His fingernails were bloody. His eyes turned black, and he smiled. Not like Alex. Like it, Alex collapsed. When he woke up, he didn't remember. But Jessica knew. The demon was never destroyed. It had simply moved into Alex. And now it was getting stronger. Desperate, Jessica brought Alex to the last person who could help. Father Gabriel, an old priest, battle-worn from years of facing the darkness. "Are you sure?" the priest asked. "If we fail, the demon will consume him completely." Jessica's voice was firm. "We don't have a choice." The exorcism began. Alex was tied to the bed. Candles flickered violently. As Father Gabriel spoke the Latin, Prayers? Alex twitched and convulsed. Then he stopped. The room fell silent. And then Alex began to laugh. You think words can stop me? The room shook violently. The lights exploded, and Alex's chain snapped open. He lunged. Jessica dove away just in time. Alex moved too fast, too unnatural. His bones cracked as his body twisted in grotesque angles. The demon was taking over. "You cannot save him!" it roared. The walls bled. The air grew thick with shadows. Father Gabriel threw holy water, but it only made Alex scream in rage. "Enough!" Jessica grabbed Alex's face. "I know you're in there. Fight!" For a second, just a second, Alex's eyes cleared. "Jessica," he whispered, and that was enough. Father Gabriel pressed the crucifix to his forehead. "Leave this body, demon!" the demon screeched. The shadows ripped out of Alex's body, twisting and writhing, and then with one final, blood-curdling scream, it was gone. Alex woke up. His eyes were normal. His breathing was steady. He looked at Jessica. "Is it over?" he whispered. She nodded. The nightmare was finally over. Or so they thought. Because as they walked out of the church, a shadow moved in the corner. A whisper slithered through the air. "I'll be back." The house stood on the edge of a dense forest, its silhouette dark against the evening sky. It wasn't just old, it felt ancient, like it had soaked in centuries of whispers and secrets. The air around it was heavy, almost suffocating. I pulled up in my car, engine humming in the eerie silence. The drive from the city had been long, but something about this place had called to me. My Aunt Lydia had left this house to me after her mysterious death last month. A sudden heart attack, they said. But the way my mother had reacted, her refusal to even talk about the house, told me there was more to the story. Stepping out, I felt the cold air wrap around me like unseen fingers. The trees swayed slightly, though there was no wind. I hesitated, staring up at the broken windows on the top floor. For a moment, I thought I saw movement, just a flicker of a shadow behind the curtains. But when I blinked, it was gone. "Just tired," I muttered, shaking off the uneasy feeling. With my suitcase in one hand, I unlocked the heavy wooden door. It groaned loudly as it swung open, revealing the dark hallway beyond. The scent of dust and something faintly metallic filled my nose. I stepped inside, and the door slammed shut behind me. The house was eerily quiet. My footsteps echoed through the long, dimly lit corridor. Faded wallpaper peeled from the walls, and old portraits lined the hallway. Familiar faces, yet unsettlingly strange. They were my ancestors. But their eyes, they followed me. I reached the grand staircase, gripping the polished wooden railing. The house creaked, settling into the weight of my presence. Or maybe it was reacting to me. As I climbed up, I felt an odd sensation, like I wasn't alone. I turned sharply, my breath catching. Nothing, just the empty hall behind me. Then came the whisper, soft, almost too faint to hear. My blood turned to ice. I spun around, searching for the source, but there was no one. The hairs on the back of my neck stood up. I wasn't imagining this. Taking a deep breath, I hurried to the bedroom Aunt Lydia used to stay in. Inside, the air was colder, heavy with something unseen. The old wooden dresser still had her jewelry box on top, untouched. Then, suddenly, the floorboards creaked, a deep, slow creak, like someone was stepping closer. I froze, and then, a voice, so close it could have been right behind me. "Leave." That night I barely slept. The air in the house felt thick, pressing down on my chest. Every noise seemed amplified in the silence, the ticking of the clock, the rustling of tree branches against the windows. At exactly 3 a.m., a loud thud jolted me awake. I sat up, heart pounding. It had come from below, somewhere deep in the house. For a moment I considered ignoring it, but something compelled me to move. Grabbing my phone, I tiptoed out of the room, the wooden floor icy against my bare feet. Downstairs, the air was colder. I followed the sound, my pulse quickening with every step. Then I saw it. The basement door, a door I had not opened since I arrived, was slightly ajar. A dark gap of nothingness stared back at me from the opening. A rational voice in my head screamed at me to turn back, but I stepped closer. Placing my hand on the door, I pushed it open just a little more. The hinges groaned in protest. A gust of cold air rushed past me, and then a single whisper from the darkness below. "Emily." The voice was familiar, too familiar. It was my own. My breath hitched. The whisper had mimicked my voice perfectly. I stepped back, my hand trembling on the doorknob. The basement was pitch dark, and an overwhelming stench of decay seeped out from below. A low scraping sound echoed from the darkness. Something was moving down there. I fumbled for the light switch, but it didn't work. The bulb overhead flickered weakly and then went out completely, plunging everything into darkness. Then came the footsteps, slow, heavy, coming up the stairs. I slammed the door shut, my breath ragged. My fingers trembled as I locked it. Silence. For a few seconds I thought, maybe it was my imagination. Maybe I was sleep-deprived. Then, bang! The door shook violently as if something was slamming against it from the other side. I stumbled back, heart hammering against my ribs. And then, just as suddenly as it started, it stopped. I waited. Silence. I took one step back toward the staircase, and then I heard it. A slow, rasping breath from the other side of the door. It was waiting. Morning came, but the fear didn't leave me. My hands still trembled as I made coffee, my mind replaying last night's events over and over. Maybe I was hallucinating. Stress, lack of sleep, it could be anything. But then I saw it, a mark on my wrist, a deep blackened bruise, almost in the shape of a handprint, like something had grabbed me in my sleep. My stomach turned. I didn't remember anything after locking the basement door. Had I fallen asleep? Or had something come to me? The silence in the house was too loud. My head throbbed. And then, from upstairs, my bedroom door creaked open, even though I knew for sure I had closed it. I stood frozen in the doorway of my bedroom, my breath hitching. The door had opened on its own. The air inside the room felt heavier, charged with something unseen. I stepped forward hesitantly, my eyes scanning every shadow, every corner. And then I saw it. The mirror. It stood tall in the corner, reflecting the dim morning light. But something was off. I took another step closer. My reflection was staring back at me, but it wasn't mirroring my movements. I raised my hand. The reflection hesitated, then slowly followed, but its fingers curled in the wrong direction, twisting unnaturally. A chill ran down my spine. I turned away quickly, heart pounding. This house was playing with me. I needed to find answers. I spent the morning searching through the old study, desperate for any clue about what was happening. Stacks of dusty books filled the shelves, Their pages yellowed with time, but it wasn't until I pulled open the lowest drawer of the old wooden desk that I found it, Aunt Lydia's diary. The leather cover was cracked, the pages worn. My hands trembled as I flipped through them. Her words were hurried, frantic. "Fa, house is alive. It watches, it waits, it knows our fears." My throat tightened. I hear them in the walls at night, scratching, whispering. They call my name. I turn the page, my pulse quickening. It wants me to open the basement door. I must not. I must not. I swallowed hard. The last entry was just 3 words, scrawled violently across the page. I let it out. A shudder ran through me, and then, from somewhere upstairs, a loud crash. I ran up the stairs, heart hammering against my ribs. The sound had come from one of the spare bedrooms. The door was slightly ajar. Pushing it open, I froze. The entire room was wrecked. Furniture overturned, the curtains shredded. Deep claw-like marks ran across the wooden floor, and then I heard it. A faint scratching noise, coming from inside the walls. I took a step closer. The sound grew louder, more frantic. Then, bang! Something inside the wall slammed against it, hard. I stumbled backward, my breath catching. The air in the room turned icy cold. The walls rippled, as if something was moving beneath the surface, and then I heard it, a guttural whisper right beside my ear. "Let me out." I spun around, but no one was there. The whisper had come from inside the walls. I couldn't stay in that room. I fled down the hall, my hands shaking. This house was wrong. Something inside it was alive, watching, waiting. I needed to leave, but as I reached the stairs, I stopped. The basement door was wide open, a deep blackness stretched beyond it. The air was damp, heavy with decay. And then, a single whisper. "Emily." I took a shaky step back. Then, a cold force shoved me. I tumbled forward, hitting the wooden steps. Pain shot through my body as I rolled down, landing hard at the bottom. The door slammed shut above me. I was trapped. In the dark. And something was down there with me. My breathing was ragged. I scrambled to my feet, the damp stone floor chilling, me to the bone. The only light came from the faint glow of my phone screen. The basement stretched further than I expected, deeper than it should have been. The walls were old, damp, and covered in strange symbols. And then I saw them. Footprints. Not mine. They were wet, leading deeper into the darkness. A low, rasping breath echoed from the shadows. I turned, phone shaking in my grip, its weak light barely cutting through the dark. And then, something moved. A shadow detached itself from the wall. Tall, distorted. Its limbs too long, its eyes empty pits of darkness. It took a step toward me, the sound inhuman. My legs wouldn't move. I was frozen. Then, in a flash, it lunged. A scream tore from my throat as I ran, my feet barely finding the ground beneath me. The creature chased me, its breath hot against my neck. A door. There had to be a door. My hands fumbled against the cold walls, searching, praying. Then I felt it. A handle. I yanked it open and threw myself inside, slamming the door shut just as the thing crashed into it. The pounding was deafening. The wood splintered. I turned, gasping, and froze. This wasn't a storage room, it was a burial chamber. Rows of coffins lined the walls. The air reeked of decay, and then one of the coffins shifted. A brittle, skeletal hand crawled out. I pressed against the door, heart hammering. Then a voice, right behind me. "You should have left." Darkness swallowed me whole. The darkness pressed against me, thick and suffocating. My pulse thundered in my ears as I pressed my back against the cold wooden door, the rotten smell of decay filling my lungs. The coffin lid slid open with a slow, agonizing creak. I barely breathed as a skeletal hand reached out, its fingers curling, unnaturally. From the shadows, a shape rose, a corpse-like figure, its face twisted in an eternal silent scream. I bit down on my own scream, frozen in place. Then it turned its head. The sound was wet, cracking. Its empty eyes locked onto me. Deep, raspy voice slithered from its throat. "You should not be here." I didn't think. I ran. Blindly, I stumbled through the darkness, my hands outstretched, searching for anything that could lead me out. The creature moved behind me, its movements jerky, unnatural, like a puppet with tangled strings. Then, suddenly, I tripped. I hit the floor hard, dust choking my breath. My phone flew from my grasp, its dim light spinning wildly before landing face down. I reached for it desperately, a hand clamped around my ankle. I kicked and thrashed, my screams echoing in the chamber. The grip on my ankle tightened, its bony, fingers digging into my skin. Then, a whisper, so close it sent shivers down my spine. "Emily." The grip loosened. I scrambled back, grabbing my phone and shining its weak light toward the figure. The thing stood still, its sunken eyes fixed on me, but it didn't move. And then, its face changed. The grotesque horror melted away, revealing something else. Someone else. Aunt Lydia. Her face was pale, her eyes hollow yet filled with sorrow. "You must leave this house," she whispered. Tears blurred my vision. My voice shook. "Aunt Lydia, what is happening?" Her face twisted in pain. She reached toward me, her fingers trembling. "It's waking up, Emily. You have to stop it." My skin turned ice cold. "What do you mean?" Her lips parted, as if to speak. Then she was yanked back into the darkness. A terrible screech filled the room. The coffin slammed shut. And then the whispering started again. But this time it was all around me. I didn't wait. I ran. Somehow I found a door. It was old, wooden, covered in deep scratch marks. I shoved it open, tumbling into another passage, this one even older. The air was thick with dampness, the walls lined with ancient carvings. As I stepped forward, something moved in the shadows. Not just one thing. Many. Figures crawled along the walls and ceiling, their eyes hollow pits of darkness. Their whispers bled into my ears, distorting reality. "She let us in. She let us in. She let us in." The words repeated, growing louder, deafening. My vision blurred, my head pounded. I stumbled forward, my breath shallow, my skin burning cold. Then I saw it. At the end of the passage, a door. A massive, ancient door, with strange symbols carved into it. It was sealed shut. But something was on the other side. Felt it watching me. Waiting. Something old. Something hungry. And then a single whisper snaked into my ear, so close it made me shudder. "Emily." "Open the door." A wave of dizziness crashed over me. My vision blurred, my knees buckling beneath me. I hit the floor hard, and then everything went black. I was somewhere else. A vast empty field of white. No sound, no movement, just silence. Then, from the mist, a figure emerged. A woman, dressed in a flowing white gown. Her hair was long, tangled, her face familiar. My mother. I staggered backward, my heart hammering. She had been dead for years. Mom? My voice cracked. She reached for me, but her eyes were wrong. Too dark, too empty. You need to wake up. Her voice was desperate. Emily, wake up before it. The world ripped apart. I gasped awake. I was back in the passage, my body trembling, my hands numb with cold. The door was open, and something was waiting inside. My body screamed, "Run!" But something compelled me forward. Inside the room, the air was thick, alive. The walls pulsed like breathing flesh. The symbols carved into them glowed a sickly red, and at the center, a pit, a black void that seemed to swallow light itself. The whispers rose to a fever pitch. The walls shook. Then I saw it, a figure rising from the pit. Its form was shapeless, shifting, writhing, its body made of shadow and bone. It opened its eyes, and for the first time, I understood. This wasn't just a haunting. This house had been built to contain something ancient, something worse than death. And Aunt Lydia had set it free. The thing turned to me, and it smiled. The air crackled with a presence so powerful it pressed against my chest like a heavy weight. The thing standing before me wasn't human, wasn't even something I could comprehend. Its form twisted between shadows and flesh, its skeletal grin widening as it stretched its limbs unnaturally. The whispers in my head became screams. I stumbled, backward, but the thing moved closer. "You should not have come here." The voice wasn't spoken aloud. It rattled inside my skull. Then, a scream tore through the room. Not mine. From the darkness, Aunt Lydia appeared, her face pale, her eyes wide, with terror. "Emily, run!" But it was too late. The creature lunged. Aunt Lydia's body jerked backward, her mouth opening in a silent scream as she was dragged into the darkness. I ran, faster than I ever had in my life. I barreled through the corridors, my heartbeat deafening in my ears. The walls seemed alive, shifting, pulsing. The old house had changed, and then I saw it. A hidden doorway, one I had never noticed before, half buried behind layers of rotting wallpaper. I didn't hesitate. I shoved it open and plunged inside. Inside was a study, old, covered in dust, lined with ancient bookshelves. But one thing stood out, a desk, and on that desk, a journal. Trembling, I opened it. "To whoever finds this, you must understand. The house is not haunted. The house is a prison, and we are the prisoners." The words sent a chill down my spine. The next pages were filled with horrifying sketches, images of a faceless entity, its body shifting, writhing. Notes scribbled in frantic handwriting. "It has been here since before us. It feeds on the ones who live here. Every 50 years it awakens, and it needs a host." My breath caught. The last page had a single sentence scrawled in red ink. "Do not let it take you." A creak. My blood turned to ice. I turned slowly. The thing was in the room. It crawled from the shadows, its arms elongated, its fingers tapering into sharp claw-like points. Its head twisted unnaturally as it studied me, its grin stretching far beyond what was humanly possible. I bolted for the door, but it slammed shut. My pulse pounded. Then, it spoke. "You read the book. Now you understand." The voice was low, guttural, almost amused. The floor beneath me trembled. The room was collapsing. Dust rained from the ceiling. the walls splitting open to reveal hundreds of staring eyes. They blinked, watched me, and then they screamed. I don't remember how I got out of that room. I just remember running. The house was no longer a house. It was a maze, a twisting, endless loop of corridors, staircases that led to nowhere, and I was trapped inside it. Then I saw the staircase leading down. A part of me screamed not to go, but something else, something deep inside, pulled me forward, descended. The deeper I went, the colder it became. And then I reached the basement. At the center of the room was a pit, the same one from my nightmare. And now I knew the truth. The house wasn't built to contain the creature. The house was built to feed it. Footsteps. I turned sharply and froze. Aunt Lydia was there, but something was wrong. Her eyes were empty. Her face was pale and lifeless, and she wasn't alone. Beside her stood figures draped in black robes, their faces hidden beneath bone-white masks. The air grew thick, heavy. The pit pulsed, like something beneath it was breathing. One of the figures stepped forward. The time has come. Aunt Lydia lifted her hand. The sacrifice must be made. My stomach dropped. They weren't trying to stop the creature. They were offering me to it. I didn't think. I ran. The cultists lunged after me, their robes whipping in the air as they moved unnaturally fast. I dodged, barely escaping a grasping hand, but the house wasn't letting me go. Doors slammed shut before I could reach them. Hallways twisted and looped back on themselves. Then I heard it. The creature was coming. The whispers returned, filling the air with a deafening hum. And then Aunt Lydia spoke one last time. "Emily, you cannot escape." Her face twisted into a grin. "You were chosen. I was trapped." The cultists formed a circle around me. The pit was right behind me, pulsing, waiting. And then the entity rose. Its form expanded, swallowing the shadows. Its eyes locked onto me. "Emily," it whispered, "come home." No. Something inside me snapped. I grabbed the journal, my fingers shaking, and tore through the pages until I found the incantation, a way to seal the entity forever. My voice trembled, but I spoke the words. The cultists screamed. The walls shook. The entity lunged at me, and then the house began to collapse. Everything was falling apart. I ran, faster than I ever had. The floor crumbled beneath my feet. The walls split open, revealing more twisting, screaming faces. The exit, I saw it. I dove through the front door just as the house imploded behind me. Silence. I gasped, my body trembling, my hands covered in dust. It was over. Or at least, I thought it was. Until I heard a voice. A whisper. Right behind me. "Did you really think you could escape, Emily?" I stood outside the smoldering ruins of the house, my breath shallow, my hands trembling. The air was silent now. Too silent. The house was gone, swallowed by the abyss I had unleashed. But deep in my chest, I knew. It wasn't over. A cold whisper slithered into my ear. "Emily." I turned sharply, my heart slamming against my ribs. Nothing. But the wind carried a laugh. Soft, mocking, waiting. I checked into a motel miles away from the town, desperate to escape. The moment I stepped into the room, I locked every door and window, but as I stood in front of the bathroom mirror, I saw something that froze my blood. My reflection blinked before I did. I staggered back, a choked gasp escaping my throat. The reflection grinned. Not me. Not my expression. I blinked again. The face in the mirror was mine again. But I knew I wasn't alone anymore. I barely slept that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I felt something move in the darkness. Then, a scream ripped through the motel, bolted upright. It came from the next room. Trembling, I opened my door, stepping into the hallway. The door to room 105 was wide open. Inside, a woman's body lay on the floor. Her eyes gone. Her mouth frozen mid-scream. Blood smeared the walls, forming a single word, "Welcome." Sirens blared, the flashing red and blue lights making my skin crawl. I told the cops what I saw, but when they questioned me, something was off. "Ma'am, there's no writing on the wall." I turned sharply, and my stomach dropped. The blood, the message was gone. The body remained. But the thing that left its mark had erased its presence, and I was starting to realize it wanted me to know. I left the motel. I drove for hours, checking into a different place, trying to shake the feeling that something was following me. That night, I woke up unable to move. Sleep paralysis. A weight pressed down on my chest. A figure crouched at the edge of my bed, its face hidden in the dark, but I could hear it breathing. I tried to scream. It crawled closer, closer, until I felt its breath on my cheek. And then it whispered, "Let me in." I woke up gasping, but when I looked down at my arms, fingerprints, bruised, burned into my skin. Something was wrong. The next morning, I looked at my phone and saw texts I didn't remember sending. To Aunt Lydia. To people I didn't know. And worst of all, I saw myself in my phone's camera, recording a video. Except I never hit record, and my lips were moving, whispering something I couldn't hear. Then, the video cut to black, but just before it ended, a single frame of me, smiling, with black eyes. I drove anywhere but here. My reflection no longer matched me. My voice echoed strangely. I didn't feel alone in my own body. I reached a gas station, stumbling inside, desperate to see if someone, anyone, could tell me I wasn't losing my mind. He. Cashier looked up, his face paled, and then he whispered a prayer. "You have to leave," he said, stepping back. I tried to ask him why, but he refused to look at me. And as I turned to the gas station security camera monitor, my stomach twisted. Because in the black and white screen, there were two of me, one standing still, watching, and the other, smiling. I shattered every mirror I could find, but that night, I woke up to find the largest one perfectly whole, and in it, my reflection moved on its own. I stood frozen as it raised a hand. Then, it reached through the glass. I screamed, stumbling. Back as its fingers curled around my wrist, it yanked, and suddenly I was falling. Not into my room, but into the other side. I landed hard. The air was thick, suffocating. I was no longer in my room. The world around me was a twisted reflection, a nightmare version of reality. Figures stood in the distance, faceless, watching. And then the ground cracked beneath my feet. From the darkness below, the entity emerged. "You should have stayed." It lunged, and I screamed. I ran, through hallways that didn't end, down staircases that looped back to the same place. I wasn't running in circles. I was running inside the entity's trap. And then I saw a single door, a way out. But the entity was behind me. It grabbed my arm, its voice, in my head. "This time, you belong to me." I ripped free, diving through the door, and woke up, back in my room, gasping, shaking, but alive. For now. The nightmare was real. The entity wasn't just in the house. It was in me. Everywhere I went, it followed. Every mirror, every reflection. It watched, and now it was getting stronger. The question wasn't if I could escape. The question was, how long until it finally took over? I couldn't run anymore. The entity was inside me now. I heard its voice in my head, soft, mocking, hungry, "You're almost mine." My hands shook as I looked at the bruises on my wrists, marks left by something not human. I tried to call someone, anyone, but my phone glitched. The screen went dark. Then a message appeared. "Stop resisting." And then the whisper, right behind me. "It's time, Emily." I left the motel and drove. No destination, no plan. But the farther I got, the worse it became. Every billboard I passed had my face on it. My reflection watched me from the rearview mirror, smiling. And then I saw them. Figures standing on the side of the road, mouths open in silent screams, their eyes black voids. I drove faster, but then my car shut down. The radio turned on by itself, and a voice whispered through the speakers. "Come back home, Emily." The engine roared to life on its own, and before I could stop it, the car turned around, heading back to where it all started. When I arrived, the house was standing again. Perfect. Untouched. Like it had never burned, but I knew better. I stepped inside. The air was thick, suffocating. The floor groaned under my weight, whispering in a language I didn't understand. Then, the door slammed shut behind me, and in the darkness, it moved, waiting, smiling. I felt cold hands on my shoulders, a pressure, pushing me down. I saw my reflection in the shattered window, but it wasn't me anymore. The entity's voice hissed inside my head. "You're almost ready." My limbs felt heavy. My breath came in ragged gasps. I fell to my knees, and for the first time I felt myself slipping away. The world faded, and in that moment, I knew I was losing. Through the haze, I remembered something. The journal I had found weeks ago. The ritual my aunt had tried, but failed. Fire. The only way. Summoning what little strength I had left. I forced myself to move. I grabbed the journal from my bag and began to chant. The air rippled, the entity screamed, the walls shook. It knew. It was afraid, but it wasn't leaving without a fight. The ground split open beneath me. A black, writhing mass crawled out. Its face was mine. "Why fight it?" It whispered. "We are the same now." I couldn't breathe. The air turned thick as tar. It lunged, its hands stretching toward me, and for a second I almost let it take me. But then I grabbed the lighter, flicked it open, and threw it onto the floor. Flames exploded around me. The entity screamed, writhing in agony. The shadows peeled away from the walls, clawing at the air. I felt a weight lift off my chest. For the first time in weeks, I could breathe. The entity lashed out one last time. "This isn't over!" It roared. The house collapsed around it, swallowing it in fire. I ran, stumbling out just as the roof caved in, and then silence. For the first time in forever, it was gone. I stood outside, watching the flames. Tears blurred my vision. I had survived. But something felt off. I turned to leave, but then a familiar whisper brushed against my ear. "Did you really think you won?" My blood turned to ice. I looked at my reflection in a nearby car window, and my stomach dropped. My reflection smiled. Days passed. I moved to another town. Tried to forget. Tried to believe it was over. But every time I looked into a mirror, I saw it, a flicker, a shadow. And then one night, I woke up, standing in front of the mirror. I wasn't alone. And this time, my reflection wasn't just watching. It stepped forward and whispered, "Let me out." Maria Reynolds had never been the kind of woman who indulged in shopping sprees, but tonight, something pulled her toward the glowing red sign across the street. She wasn't sure how long she had been walking. The fog curled around the buildings, like fingers, thick and unmoving. The divorce papers in her bag felt heavier than they should have, and her heart was as empty as her apartment would be when she returned. Then she saw it. A boutique she had never noticed before, crimson silhouettes. The window displayed a row of mannequins dressed in extravagant vintage clothing, each one frozen in eerie, lifelike poses. But what caught her attention was the red dress in the center. It seemed to shimmer under the dim light, its fabric pulsating as if it were breathing. Her feet moved before she could stop them. She stepped inside. The boutique smelled like old perfume and something metallic. The air was thick, heavy. It felt less like a store and more like a place that had existed outside of time. A woman emerged from the shadows, a tall, skeletal figure wrapped in an elaborate Victorian gown. Her face was pale, her lips an unnatural shade of red. "Ah, welcome," she said in a voice like silk being torn. Maria hesitated. I saw the dress." "Of course you did." The woman glided across the room, her hands reaching for the red dress. As she lifted it from the mannequin, Maria felt her pulse quicken. "Try it on," the woman urged, her smile stretching too wide. The moment Maria touched the fabric, a shiver crawled up her spine. It was too cold. Almost alive. But when she put it on, it fit perfectly, as if it had been tailored just for her. She didn't see the woman's grin widen further. That night, Maria couldn't sleep. She tossed and turned, feeling the lingering sensation of the dress against her skin, the way it clung to her, the way it seemed to tighten just before she took it off. At 3:13 a.m., she woke up gasping. A whisper had pulled her from sleep. She sat up, her breath fogging in the cold air. The bedroom light flickered once, then twice, and then she saw it. The dress was hanging in her closet. She was sure she had left it folded on the chair. The closet door creaked open. Inch by inch, a shadow spilled out from within, stretching across the floor. Then, movement. The fabric shifted, like something inside was breathing. Maria froze. She reached for the bedside lamp, heart hammering in her chest. But as soon as light filled the room, the dress wasn't moving. It was just a dress. She exhaled shakily, forcing a laugh. "Just my imagination," she whispered. But as she turned away, she failed to notice. The dress swayed, as if someone had just stepped out of it. The next morning, Maria's skin was covered in deep, dark bruises. She stared at herself in the mirror, horrified. The marks wrapped around her torso and arms like fingers. Her hands shook as she traced them. Had she done this to herself in her sleep? She didn't remember tossing and turning that violently. Then she noticed something else. The dress was still hanging in the closet, but it was stained. A dark red smear ran along the collar, as if someone had wiped bloody lips across it. Maria's stomach churned. She grabbed the dress and shoved it into a trash bag. But the moment she turned away, thump, the bag lurched, She spun around. The dress was moving inside the bag. She screamed, ripping the bag open. She threw the dress to the floor, only to find it completely still. But something shifted in the corner of her vision. She turned toward the mirror, and the dress was there. Not on the floor, not in her hands. It was on her reflection, and the reflection was smiling, even though she wasn't. Terrified, Maria called her ex-husband Jacob. "Please, you have to come over," she begged. Jacob arrived, annoyed. "Jesus, Maria, you look like hell." She didn't care. "I need you to burn something." Jacob raised an eyebrow but followed her outside. She tossed the dress into the fire pit in her backyard and lit a match. The flames roared to life. For a moment, relief washed over her. Then the fire turned blue. Jacob staggered backward, clutching his chest. His eyes rolled back, his mouth opened in a silent scream, and then his entire body twisted unnaturally, as if invisible hands were crushing his bones. A horrible snap. Jacob collapsed, dead. The dress lay in the ashes, completely untouched. Maria fell to her knees, sobbing, shaking, and behind her the boutique sign flickered on in the distance, crimson silhouettes, and in the window the dress was back, waiting for its next owner. Maria couldn't stop shaking. She sat on the cold floor, staring at Jacob's lifeless body, sprawled beside the smoldering fire pit. His face was twisted in agony, his limbs unnaturally bent, like something had crushed him from the inside. Her breath hitched as her gaze shifted to the dress. It lay in the ashes, untouched. Not a single thread had burned. The streetlights flickered. A gust of wind whispered through the trees, carrying something. A voice. A breathy, sickly sweet whisper. Not yet. Maria's heart nearly stopped. She scrambled back, grabbing her phone. Her fingers fumbled as she dialed 911. Emergency services. "It's my ex-husband. He's dead. She turned back to Jacob's body, but it was gone. A wet dragging sound came from the darkness. Maria's stomach twisted into a knot. She turned slowly and saw bloody streaks leading back toward her house. Something had taken him. Maria slammed the door shut, heart hammering in her chest. She locked every door, closed every curtain, left every light on. But something was wrong. The house felt different. The air was thick, suffocating. The lights flickered, shadows crawling across the walls. Then, footsteps, soft, slow. Coming from the hallway, Maria grabbed a kitchen knife. The footsteps stopped. She held her breath. And then, a door creaked open. The bedroom. She stepped forward, knife shaking in her grip. She reached the doorframe, peered inside, and saw the dress. It was hanging in her closet, where it hadn't been before. Maria's pulse pounded. She reached forward, then the closet door slammed shut. A burst of whispers flooded her ears. Maria screamed and stumbled back, only to crash into something. No. Someone. A pair of cold hands wrapped around her shoulders, and then a voice, low, distorted, crawling under her skin. "Wear it." Maria fought, twisting out of the unseen grip. She stumbled away, panting, her head spinning. She wouldn't wear it. She wouldn't. But the dress, it was waiting. Something about it called to her. The whispers burrowed into her skull. Wear it. No. Wear it. No. Maria grabbed the dress and threw it into the fireplace. The flames roared, but they didn't touch the fabric. The dress rose from the fire, floating in the air, the edges twisting like reaching fingers. And then it lunged at her. The fabric wrapped around her throat, tightening. Maria clawed at it, gasping. She fought. She struggled, but then a voice whispered, clear as day, let go. And suddenly she wasn't fighting anymore. Her hands dropped, her breathing slowed, and the dress, it slid onto her body, perfectly, as if it had been made for her. Her reflection in the mirror smiled, even though she wasn't smiling. Maria woke up standing in the middle of the street. Her hands were covered in blood. A horrible, sickening dread coiled in her stomach. She turned, dreading what she would see. Behind her, her neighbor's house was painted in blood. The front door hung open, and inside, bodies torn apart, ripped at the seams like fabric. A sob crawled up her throat. What had she done? She stumbled back, chest heaving, heart pounding, and then she saw the dress in the reflection of a car window. It was shimmering, like it was satisfied. Maria ran, but the dress held her tight, and deep inside, something laughed. Desperate, Maria searched for the boutique, but it was gone. The street where she had found it was empty, just a long stretch of abandoned buildings. Had it ever really existed? She turned, her breath fogging in the cold night air. And then, the window of a nearby shop flickered. She stepped closer, and, inside, she saw a photo, a woman wearing the same dress. Maria's stomach dropped. The photo was dated 1976, another photo, another woman. 1985, another. 1993, 2001. Each woman looked exactly like Maria, and then she saw the last photo. A mirror and her own reflection staring back. But her reflection wasn't her. It was something else. It raised a hand. Maria didn't. Her reflection grinned, and the dress tightened. Maria screamed, and in the mirror, her reflection only laughed. Maria didn't remember how she got home. The bloodstains on her hands had vanished. The bodies were gone. Had it all been a nightmare? She stumbled into the bathroom, staring at herself in the mirror. Her face was pale, dark circles under her bloodshot eyes. But then, her reflection twitched. She hadn't moved. The breath in her lungs turned to ice. She raised her hand, but her reflection lagged, and then it smiled. Maria's heart stopped. She backed away, shaking her head. No, 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 no. The reflection cocked its head. Then it reached down and tore open its own stomach. Maria screamed. She stumbled backward, crashing into the sink. Her reflection laughed, blood dripping down its dress, and then a voice, soft, teasing. You look perfect. The mirror shattered. Maria fell to the ground, covering her ears as the whispers returned. Something inside her was breaking, and the dress, it tightened. Maria needed answers. She dug through old newspapers, anything that mentioned the boutique, and then she found it, a 1976 article. The headline sent a chill down her spine. Local seamstress found dead in boutique fire, body never recovered. Maria's hands trembled as she read on. Eleanor Blackwood, owner of Blackwood Tailors, was accused of using dark rituals to craft garments with unnatural properties. Customers reported feeling possessed after wearing her designs. Eleanor Blackwood, a woman who disappeared, yet her work remained. Maria's breath hitched, because in the black and white photograph of the boutique, there was a mannequin in the background, wearing the dress, her dress. She clamped a hand over her mouth, and then a soft rustling sound came from the corner of the room. She turned. The dress was hanging on her closet door, waiting. Maria needed help. She called the only person who might believe her, Lauren, her best friend. Lauren arrived within the hour, rolling her eyes. You sound insane, Mags. A haunted dress? Maria grabbed Lauren's hands, desperate. Please, just listen. Lauren sighed. Okay, fine. Just show me this creepy thing. Maria turned toward the closet. The door was open, and the dress was gone. Her stomach plummeted. I swear it was right there, she whispered. Lauren smirked. Maybe the ghosts got shy. Maria's hands shook. She turned back to Lauren and froze. The dress was now on Lauren. Her smile vanished. What the hell? Lauren whispered. The fabric tightened around her. Lauren gasped, clawing at the neckline. I can't take it off. The lights flickered. The air turned thick. A deep, sickening laugh echoed through the room. Lauren's body jerked. Her limbs bent unnaturally. Her eyes rolled back, mouth stretching open in a silent scream. And then her skin split open, like fabric tearing at the seams. Blood sprayed across the walls. Maria screamed. Lauren's lifeless body slumped forward, the dress still wrapped around her, and then Lauren's lips curled into a smile, even though she was dead, and she whispered, voice distorted. Wear it, Maria. Maria ran. She didn't stop. She didn't stop until she reached a church. She burst inside, shaking, gasping for air. Father Gabriel, an elderly priest, rushed toward her. Child, what's wrong? Maria's lips trembled. It's cursed. It's killing people. Father Gabriel's expression darkened. He led her to the back room, where he pulled out an old book. He flipped through the pages, stopping at an illustration. Maria's blood ran cold. It was the dress. Beneath it, a name was scrawled in Latin. Vestimentum maledictum, the cursed garment. Father Gabriel exhaled shakily. This is the work of a damned soul. He pointed to the small inscription. The one who wears it carries the spirit of the seamstress. Her work is never finished. Maria's chest tightened. Then how do I stop it? Father Gabriel's gaze was grim. You don't. A cold gust of wind swept through the room, and then the candles flickered. A shadow moved behind Maria. Father Gabriel's face turned pale. No, he whispered. Maria turned and saw a figure standing in the doorway. A woman, dressed in blackened, charred fabric. Her skin was burned, her fingers long and needle-thin, her eyes stitched shut. But still, she saw Maria. And then she spoke. My work is not done. Maria's body froze, and the dress began to tighten around her skin. Maria screamed as the fabric dug into her flesh. She ripped at it, but it wouldn't come off. Father Gabriel grabbed a crucifix. In the name of, the lights exploded, the air rippled, and the seamstress moved. She appeared behind him in a blink and plunged her fingers into his chest. Father Gabriel gasped. Blood seeped from his lips. The seamstress whispered in his ear, your stitches were always weak. Then she ripped him apart. His body collapsed into neatly folded fabric. Maria's vision blurred. She staggered back, sobbing. There was nowhere left to run. The seamstress tilted her head, holding out a hand. Maria's heart pounded. The dress was fully merging with her skin. The seamstress smiled. A perfect fit. Maria opened her mouth, but no sound came. Her throat sealed shut. Her fingers turned to thread. Her body was being stitched apart. The last thing she saw was her own reflection, smiling back at her. And then, darkness. Maria woke up in complete darkness. Her body felt different. Her arms felt stiff. Her legs, unnatural. She tried to move, and heard the sound of fabric shifting. Her skin wasn't skin anymore. It was cloth. Thread. Her fingers trembled as she touched her face. No, 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 no. Her cheeks were stitched, her lips sewn shut. She tried to scream, but only a muffled whimper escaped through the tight stitches. Then, a candle flickered to life in front of her, and she realized she was sitting in an old tailor's shop. The mirrors along the wall were cracked. Mannequins stood in rows, their heads twisted. Some wore dresses identical to hers. Some wore human faces. Maria's heartbeat raced. A door at the back of the room creaked open. A figure stepped out. The seamstress, her. Blackened hands held a needle, and she whispered, "You are my finest work." Maria sprinted for the exit, but the floor was not solid. It warped beneath her, like a living fabric, dragging her deeper into the boutique. Mannequins turned their heads as she passed. Their stitched eyes blinked. Maria's breath came ragged. She reached a hallway lined with faded photographs. Women, all wearing the same dress, and beneath each photo, a single word was stitched onto the frame. Perfect. The last photo was her. Maria's vision blurred. She was the next one. A hand gripped her shoulder. She spun around and stared into Lauren's lifeless eyes. Her friend's face was still frozen in a sick smile, but her voice was not her own. "The dress chooses its own, Maria." Lauren's hands lunged forward. A sharp needle plunged into Maria's chest. Pain ripped through her, and the world went black. When Maria opened her eyes again, she was on a loom. Her limbs were tied down with thread. Above her, the seamstress loomed. She hummed as she worked, pulling fabric through a spinning wheel. Maria tried to move, but her body refused. Her arms were unraveling. Threads pulled from her flesh, weaving into the machine. Her screams were silent. The seamstress sighed. "All my girls struggle at first." She leaned in close, needle in hand, but they always fit in the end. With one swift motion, she plunged the needle into Maria's heart. A burning pain tore through her chest. Her body convulsed, and then she felt herself splitting, her mind fractured, her soul woven into the dress, and the last thing she saw was her own body hanging among the mannequins, her mouth stitched shut in a smile. Somewhere far away, a doorbell chimed. A new customer had arrived. A young woman stepped inside, running her fingers along the fabric of a crimson dress. A boutique worker approached her, smiling. "Would you like to try it on?" In the mirror's reflection, Maria was watching, trapped forever. And in the distance, she heard the seamstress's voice whisper, "My work is never finished." The boutique wasn't always a store. A century ago, it was an orphanage. And the seamstress, whose real name was Margaret Blackwood, wasn't just a tailor. She was a collector of souls. Maria, trapped in the mirror's reflection, could see everything. The past played out in front of her like a nightmare. A line of pale, terrified girls stood before Margaret Blackwood. Each wore a hand-stitched dress. Each had their mouths sewn shut. "Beauty requires sacrifice," the seamstress whispered. And one by one, she cut their throats with her silver shears. Blood soaked the fabric, their souls woven into the dresses. Maria tried to scream, but she was just a reflection now, just like the others before her. In the present, the new customer, a girl named Emily Carter, held the cursed dress against her body. "It's beautiful," she murmured. Maria's soul trembled. She had to stop this, had to warn her. But the mirror only showed Emily smiling. No sign of Maria's desperate struggle. The boutique worker, Miss Holloway, smiled warmly. "It's one of a kind." Would you like to try it on? Emily nodded, and as she stepped toward the fitting room, Maria felt the curse stir. The dress wanted her. It was hungry. That night, Emily stood in front of her bedroom mirror, admiring the dress. It felt strange against her skin. Too tight. Too alive. Then, the fabric shifted, like fingers moving beneath it. She gasped and tried to pull it off, but the dress wouldn't budge. Her reflection in the mirror wasn't her anymore. It was Maria, and Maria's eyes were pleading. "Get out while you still can," Emily screamed, and the lights went out. Inside the mirror, Maria felt something shift. For the first time, she had control. The curse wasn't just feeding, it was weakening. Emily was resisting. Maria pressed her hands against the glass, focusing all her strength, and suddenly, the glass shattered. Pain ripped through her, but she was free. No longer just a reflection, she was in the real world again, and she had one goal: destroy the seamstress's curse, once and for all. Maria raced back to Blackwood Taylor's, the mannequins, watched her. Their stitched mouths twitched. Their heads snapped toward her as she passed. She stormed through the boutique, searching for the heart of the curse. And then she saw it. A massive loom in the back room. Threads made from human souls were still spinning. And standing before it was the seamstress. Still alive. Still waiting. Her eyes black as voids. Her fingers long and sharp. "You shouldn't have come back, dear." The seamstress raised her shears, and Maria charged. Maria stood in the heart of Blackwood Taylor's. The cursed loom spun behind the seamstress, its threads whispering with trapped souls. The seamstress's black eyes gleamed. "You were always meant to be part of my collection, Maria." Her silver shears glinted as she stepped forward. Maria gritted her teeth. She wasn't a victim anymore. She lunged. The two collided. The seamstress slashed, Maria ducked, and the shears grazed her cheek, slicing through reality itself. A tear formed. In the air, a rift between the living and the damned. Through it, Maria saw all the trapped souls. Dozens of women, stitched into the fabric of existence itself, including Lauren. Their hollow eyes turned toward her, and then they screamed. The sound shattered the walls of the boutique. The boutique shook as the rift grew wider. The seamstress stumbled back. The loom groaned, its ancient gears grinding. Maria grabbed the silver shears. She turned to the loom and plunged the blades into its heart. A wail erupted from the machine. Dark threads unraveled, twisting and shrieking. The seamstress screamed. Her body contorted. Her skin split at the seams. And then she came undone. Threads peeled away from her like unraveling cloth, spiraling into the void. The boutique burst into flames. Maria felt hands pulling her back. Lauren and the others. "Run!" Maria staggered toward the exit as the boutique collapsed into a heap of ashes and forgotten memories. Maria gasped as she emerged into the street. The boutique was gone. Nothing remained but a charred ruin. She could still feel Lauren's presence fading. The souls were free. She had won. Or so she thought. Because as she turned to leave, a familiar dress lay among the ashes. Untouched, pristine, waiting. And in the distance, a store bell chimed, as if a new boutique had just opened somewhere else.